And going with this final unit on what is it that we need to do to get us started? How can
Yeah.
we build communities that last?
So yes. So the most important thing with all of this is to keep doing and understand that it's constructed in a series of small actions. Um, and in fact, constructed in such small actions that it's almost impossible for us to consciously control all of this. This idea of intentional design, and how the limits of that is. So on a very real level, how the community is that you lead is going to be a reflection of you as a person and your approach. So when you've decided on what feels pretty helpful, and again, you don't have to solve this completely because you won't know until you start acting. So what emerges as the likely most helpful way of explaining this, way of framing this, way of doing this? What's the smallest thing that you can do to start doing that, but in that manner? So what steps can you take that both feel good, exciting, healing, whatever it is or whatever feeling you think is most helpful to manifest, and which allow you to take those actions more effectively? So you allow actions in this space to be more effective for you personally to start with, that create that space for other people to come into. So if you want to have a conversation about something, if that's why you're really, that's your kind of your initial urges, I'd love to have a space to talk this through with someone. Create that space that you would love for you, and then invite people into it. And so that is the frame, that's the space that you're creating. And so you invite people into that space, and you invite people into that frame. And when that's filled, when you've got, when you're starting to reach the limits of that, you can expand. So you can expand the kind of people that you're talking to. You can expand the kind of tools that you're using. You can expand the ideas that you're bringing in. So you've got that next level out. You can bring in that next level, that next kind of ring outwards from you of people in. But really, you're always starting with you and the next step out from you, which is the people who are most similar to you. And so you're making them feel good and you're solving their problems. And then you're allowing that to ripple out as it will, because in their differences, they'll reach out to another group of people. So it's about that. What you're doing when you're first building a community is for you and the people immediately around you. And what we do is, I think one of the things is that can feel, it's very difficult to reflect upon yourself. One of the reasons to do this work is because it becomes a tool for self-reflection, but it's not something that we're trained to do. It's actually, we don't have an idea about how we are intrinsically, because it's just the nature of us. And we make the assumption that everyone is like us. That makes sense as a first assumption, but it isn't true. We all have different things that we're good at, different things that we worry about, different things that we're sensitive to, different things that we can do easily. And so it's about finding the people in your immediate circle where there's a ton of overlap, in that kind of, in how they're feeling and what they're doing, so you can improve outwards from there. So as an exercise, if you're thinking, if you've got the urge to build a community, you've got that sense that there might be a community, take a look through your existing contact list, take a look through your Facebook friends, through your LinkedIn connections, through your address book, and look for the people in that list whom you would most like to interact with, who you think it would be most helpful and fun and enjoyable to interact with, and create your community with you and those people in mind. That's your first frame.
Thank you. It is also liberating as a framing, because then you're not into that perspective of, oh, a community needs to be hundreds and thousands of people.
I
Uh,
think that brings me to one last thing that I mentioned is that you is keep that frame small, because then you can hold it lightly, which makes it playful, which makes it light. It doesn't have to be, if it becomes serious, too serious, you can take serious action, but you can do it joyfully and playfully. And when it becomes too serious, it closes down possibilities, and what we want is to create a space that opens up possibilities. So it's about balancing that, sure, but it's if it stops being playful at all, then it needs a nudge in that direction. If it stops being effective at all and it's entirely playful, then maybe it needs a nudge in the other direction. And it's about that sweet spot, that overlap between the two.
I'm definitely keeping that in terms of, it's not balance, it's the overlap. So thank you, Matthew, again for sharing your lens on how to build communities that last. And are there ways for people to get in contact with you or to know more about the work that you do?
Yes, so I run my own community that's specifically around innovation and change. I work with with outsiders, really, with people with a different perspective, and help them integrate that perspective. So for me, the root of innovation is about thinking differently and therefore doing things differently. And I see it in that order. So what I do is I help people understand how they're thinking, feeling and thinking differently, and then how that means that they can do something different for them and for other people. So that's what my community is for. It's a safe space to explore that, to play with that when it feels a little bit uncertain and a little bit dangerous. That community is called Expressing the Future, and you can find a link to it on Meaningbit, meaningbit.com. I'm also doing a whole load of work around the result of doing that, and the result of changing things, re-understanding categories, but in a way that makes things better, is that you feel delight. You've got something you didn't expect. There's something there that you didn't know you had. But it's about challenging things. So it's also about dissent. It's about arguing with the way that things currently are. So my work is called Delightful Dissent, my book that I'm writing, and that will be out in the next few months, hopefully.
Thank you. We're looking forward to that. And I love the energy of inviting delight and dissent together. So it must be a very potent combination. So
I
thank
think,
you again.
if you want to change things, then do so joyfully. This is because it's the most sustainable way to do it. If you want to see your change sustained and last, it's got to be fun too.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm definitely keeping those in. Matthew, looking forward to having another conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your lens on communities that
Wonderful. Thank
last.
you.
Just stop recording.